Hey Suji6 checking in, and I'm starting a new series. I'm gonna start doing Sunday podcasts, which is, if you don't know what a podcast is, it's just gonna be me commentating over something that I want to. And today it's PC gaming or PC versus console, whatever you want, because well, I explain it on the video. And if you enjoy, leave a sub and like. Thank you very much. Hey Suji6 checking in, and I still can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah. So Um, I've been thinking about all the next gen consoles and just how everything is going to be changed in the next coming era. I mean, like with all the specs and how it's more or less like identifying it from like a PC gamer's perspective. And I should have brought some water into this because this is going to be a really long commentary. But that being said, it's just yeah, this is going to be a long commentary because if you look at the title, then you're going to know what I mean. But from looking at the next gen consoles, the following commentary doesn't have anything to do with any of that. It's just some of my thoughts and a weird transitional phrase that I had to go through to get accustomed to PC gaming. So if you couldn't tell by what I was just saying, this is a PC gaming review. And since I came from a console, I guess it's going to be coming from a console to PC gaming perspective, ultimately making a collision or a battle between console and PC. So I guess I should get started. And this is about to be a long video, so you should just do what I do and don't even watch the gameplay, but just listen to the commentary because I'm probably going to be bringing up some good points that a lot of other commentators aren't going to bring up. So yeah, and before I get into this, if you enjoy the video, oh well, no, okay, that's like an end of the video thing. But the following video doesn't have anything to do with next gen consoles. It's more current gen consoles, and I'll probably make a video review of once, not a video. Well, yeah, I'll make a video review of once the consoles are out and their weaknesses and flaws that they were ultimately missing, and just stuff like that. And why PC games are and maybe will be somewhat better. Now, after almost 2 minutes of, well, after, yeah, 2 minutes of an introduction, let's get into it. So, I want to discuss my review of the pros, cons, and a rumor about PC gaming. So, let's get started. Number one is dedicated servers. Now, if you played on console, you know that most games are peer to peer, like Call of Duty. For example, if you want to play a game, you connect to that peer, and usually the host has the best connection because he's distributing out the connections to everybody, ultimately making him in instant detection usually a step above everybody else's, and he doesn't have to compensate for anything because he's using his internet, not anybody else's. Then when you're connected to a dedicated server, you all just connect to a server that's usually held or put up by the company. All you have to do is rent it or buy it, and people connect to it, and their connection or ping, if you play on PC, is more or less related to your actual internet and how fast your data speeds are for your wireless router and all that stuff. And since most PC games run on a hardwired connection, you're probably better off anyways than if you had a wireless card built in, or if you're using like the actual wireless out of a console. So yeah. Number two has to be mouse and keyboard. Now, this is a very controversial topic because when I talk about it to my friends, they're all like, "Oh, mouse and keyboard, that's so bland and boring, and it's hard to get used to." And yes, it is hard to get used to, but if you really think about it, you're gonna get more accuracy because instead of like slipping with like if you have a console, you usually use your two thumbs for everything, right? If you slip your hand, well, if your thumb slips, then you can go in a wrong direction, and if you're playing a stealth game, it can be the end of that. So when you're using your middle ring and your pointer finger, and you control like WASD for your movement, it's typically a lot harder to mess up what you're doing than if you were actually using two analog sticks. So that's about, well, no, that's not all. Another thing is when you're playing first-person shooters or just any game in general that involves a lot of your use of mouse, which most games do, but more I don't know what I'm getting at, but more for first person shooters, it's just the fact that instead of using your thumb to control like your visuals, like left, right, up and down, the way you're going to look, it's like using your whole hand or palm. And once you get used to that and the sensitivity, you'll be surprised how much better you'll do. And you're gonna come from not, if you just, okay, if you play on console your whole life and you like first person shooters on console, then you're gonna be used to having the aim assist, which is built into the console for obviously the reason I stated. It's harder to aim with two thumbs instead of your hand unless you have small hands. I don't know, but yeah, so it's easier to aim with your hand instead of thumbs. I guess that's really what I'm trying to say. Just because instead of using one finger, you're using your whole grip. So yeah. Another thing, well, number three is specs and hardware. Now, not at the time, or not right now, currently, it's cheaper to upgrade to a new console. And if your game isn't running at like 60 frames per second or however many frames you want to play the game at, you can actually go into the settings and change it from custom to what you want the game to look pretty for. So you can change it from custom to low to medium, high, and then ultra. Ultra is obviously the best because it's the very last like preset option of graphics that you can choose. But for those who say, well, I'll leave that to the end of the video, but you can change your resolution to 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720, which is still HD, but it's not as crisp as 1080p. If you want a better monitor, and usually PC monitors are better than most TVs because of, well, the refresh rate, they have more pixels, they have a better like ratio. I forget what kind of ratio it is, but it's like I can't even talk right. It's too early to be recorded. This is like 7:51 in the morning, and I don't know why I'm up on a Saturday or a Sunday, but whatever. Probably just because I wanted to make this video. But now that I'm done being sidetracked, it's like instead of having to pay for a new console, which is going to be $600, because a lot of people are going to be upgrading to that, you could easily upgrade. Like you can get 16 gigabytes of RAM for $100, which is actually really cheap for RAM, and it's good. You can get a graphics card for a lot less than $600, like maybe 200, or it depends on how much you want to put into it. But I'll leave that also to later. I'll bring it up, and it's just you can choose what you want to upgrade instead of going out and buying a new console when you're like, for example, some people say that their computers couldn't run Battlefield as well, so they went out and bought a new processor and a new graphics card. Today, when programmers port games or when they program games, they are focusing more on the graphics card more than anything. Because if you have a good graphics card, you can run a lot. And if you don't want to make an upgrade, like I said earlier, you can just lower the settings. And 9 times out of 10, if you have a good gaming computer that can run the game how you want, if you just take off like motion blur and anti-aliasing, you'll be fine. And if you're a console player, you don't know what that is. So yeah, this is awkward for you guys. Number 4 is the multiple source of cheap games. Now, the reason that games are so cheap on PC is because there's no middleman, and when there's no middleman, the money goes straight to the factory. When the money goes straight to the factory, you don't have to pay for the packaging or the distributor. So that being said, if you look at Steam, Origin, Game Fan Shop, the GameStop app, etc., they'll sometimes have weekend deals that are 75% off. In that game that just came out, like, I don't know, probably a month ago, or I don't know. I just know that it's pretty new and people like it. I think it's called Metro Last Light. I looked at it on the Game Fan Shop, and that was only $39.99. SimCity is $20 off. Dishonored is like 50% off on the Steam store. Probably like a lot cheaper. And usually games that do like really well that you had to pay for originally make it to the free-to-play category, which is actually really nice because games like Team Fortress 2, PlanetSide 2. It's just PC also has a wide variety of free-to-play games, and it's nice to have that if you don't want to spend that much money on the games. And they're created pretty well. They're not like awkwardly made or badly made. You can tell that the producers actually care about what they make because of the good, like, because of the good talk, or I can't think of a better word right now, but the good communication between the players and the but okay the good communication between the players and the devs. There we go. Man, I'm not even halfway through this. Well, actually, no, I'm more than halfway through this list. I just have a lot of cons. Okay, where are we? Number 5 right now is the modding community. Now, games that typically feel old to us after a while, when we have a lot of people that like to mod the games because they're so passionate about the game, or they just want to make the game more fun and bring a new light, they end up modding the games. And when you mod the games, like I showed in my present Call of Duty gameplay, I showed the Gold Scar Age on Nuketown, which isn't even supposed to be in Modern Warfare 2. And recently, well, actually yesterday, I looked at even more 4 Delta 1 mods and all that stuff. And they brought in the map like Oil Rig. I'm sure that they have more maps. It also goes into Modern Warfare 3, but I'm not playing that shit ever again. I'm actually gonna uninstall it right after this commentary. Because now that I have 4 Delta 1, Modern Warfare 2 is just like, why? So, yeah, there's also the M40 OA5, and I'm sure there's a lot of other mods or guns modded into the game, like the Peacekeeper, that'll give the game like a new light. And like, it's kind of a DLC if you think about it, but you're gonna have to work a little harder, like put it into like your actual program files instead of putting it into your instead of just downloading, installing, and restarting. Well, I mean, it is that if you're used to it, but yeah, you know. So that, and number 6 is the emulators. Now, it doesn't take and okay, let me just get one short rumor out of the water. People that say that your computer needs to be incredible to run emulators, that's just bull. I mean, a typical computer is more than capable. Well, a non-gaming computer is more than capable of running a PS2 emulator, a GameCube emulator, a Wii emulator, Game Boy, etc. Today, the stuff that goes into computers is a lot stronger than what's happened in present day. Well, not present. I don't know what I'm saying, but what goes into computers now are a lot better than past consoles, because one, technology is upgrading so much faster, and two, you can, if you're on a desktop, you can upgrade it whenever you want, ultimately making it the perfect machine for you. If you want a computer that can run games, well, pay for what you want and spend more. And well, if you want to see 1080p at over 100 frames per second on a dual monitor screen, however many resolution. I don't know the resolution for that, but you guys get the point. If you get for what you pay for what you want. So if you want a computer that can primarily run emulators, then you don't have to spend that much. Maybe like a GTX 560, which is actually cheap. You can probably pick that up for like $50. You can still run Battlefield on that, and Battlefield's a pretty graphic intensive game. It takes a lot of your GPU to run it, but if you just lower the settings, you should be fine. So if it can run that, then it can definitely run emulators. And if your computer can't run Battlefield 3 or Call of Duty, I'm sure it can run an emulator. You can just go into the settings and lower the settings. And also, if you wanted to go above and beyond, you could go into the game. You can go into, like, say you're running PCX2, which is the PS2 emulator. You can go and make that into 1080p, and well, yeah, you can make the game into 1080p. So when it shows up on your screen, it's in beautiful 1080p. It's running at 60 frames per second, and it just looks beautiful and very nostalgic. If that's what you come from, like I did. Now, I think that's about it for the pros. There's a lot of pros about PC gaming, but there are also a couple of cons that I came up with. This is probably some stuff that I missed from console, and just an ultimate like sort of list. I was thinking about splitting this video up into two, but I hate doing two-part videos because half the audience doesn't even stick around for like the other video, and that is why I will never do a walkthrough on my channel. So let's get into it. For the cons, number one is the learning curve. Now, when you first come on to play PC, you're going to be very frustrated. First, you realize how quote unquote good the players are, when in reality, good isn't the right word, and it's not like the good enough word that a lot of people will say. They're like, oh, PC players are better, console players are better. It's just that what a lot of people are overlooking is, like I said earlier, you're using your whole hand to control the accuracy, and you can change the sensitivity. And once you're at that point of when you've been playing PC games so long, you just start to take full advantage of using your hand for the recoil instead of just thumbs. You get that killer instinct after playing for so long. It's just managing recoil for guns is easier, running around is easier because it's more accurate. And yeah, so when people say that PC players and console players are better, it all comes down to who's been playing the game longer, I guess, who has more experience, and who's ultimately. Now, I'm not a stat whore, but maybe if they have better stats or something like that. But when you say that making the transition from console to PC, you're immediately going to notice how good PC players are, because we obviously have our whole hand to control the recoil instead of just pulling down on a thumb or just. I guess that's about it. It's just easier to actually control on a mouse. So number two is the. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's called. I'm just gonna call it awkward positioning. Now this is on my cons list because when I played console, or I still play console today, but when I did that, it was, well, I could be comfortable and just sit on my couch and be at my TV from a distance and play the game. So yeah, when I had to stop doing that, then it got slightly awkward. Now that I'm playing PC games just like pretty consistently, I'm sitting at a desk, and it's can be kind of awkward. I mean, I've had a gaming PC for a while now, and thinking about it, I'm probably still not used to having to actually sit here at a computer. But now that I'm doing YouTube making videos, is I'm getting more and more used to just sitting here. So I'm not sure if it's a con, but just maybe something I need to get used to. But what I'm saying is you don't have that comfort factor of just being able to lay down while you play. You always, my bad. I just started stretching randomly. But back to what I was saying, you don't have that comfort level of just laying down and playing a game at a distance. You're always sitting up straight, or not sitting up straight, but you can be slouching over, and your hands will be or your arms will be stretched over to grab the mouse and keyboard, or you can have it however close to you, but then your elbow starts to dangle, and you're like, why? So yeah, that's plenty said on that. It's just weird coming from that to that. Now, con number four is probably, or con, I don't know, I said one, two, four. No, so con number three is probably the PC problems that you can have. If you've torn a lot of like music, movies, or like anime and manga, then be careful, because you know that torrents are just unprotected. Every time you download them or use them, you take a 50-50 chance, and when you do that, you're opening up your computer and you're bypassing it into all the security and letting it go into your computer and do what you want from it. So that in mind, whatever you do to your computer is your fault. You can't blame it on them, because you ultimately put your computer and you give it that liberty to put it into that state of openness so anybody could touch it. So if you have like if you get the blue screen of death, if you get that boot up problem, if you get any type of virus, it's on you and you have to fix it. And it could be as simple as just buying a new hard drive and starting over, but then you might have to buy a new version of Windows and yeah. So if you have PC problems and you don't know how to maintain your own computer, which most of you should if you into PC gaming, then it's just yeah. So I guess that's really about it. And now I wanted to talk about rumors. The only rumor I have is really the cost. And oh yeah, one last thing about the cons is I was gonna talk about coming from controller to con. Okay, coming from controller to mouse and keyboard, but after a while you just it just happens after a while. Don't force it. Just give it some time. Now for the cost of okay, but back to my rumor, the cost. So apparently, people say, "Oh, to need a good gaming computer, you have to, get the top of the end hardware. You have to spend $1,500 on computers." Now that's bullshit. Like that's just bullshit. So let's clear up some rumors first and foremost. You can use a gaming computer that's probably 50% off right now from 2011 or 2012 to run a game. We're today is May 26, 2013. You don't need a computer that just came out yesterday to run every game you wanted to. If you want to run every game you wanted to, then you could just simply lower the settings. If you buy a computer from last year, you might not be able to play a game on or ultra or high, but if you wanted to, you could change the resolution. You could change the in-game settings. You can go to custom and turn off anti-aliasing, graphic. You can change all that stuff and just make it so you can focus on what you want to look pretty, but you can ultimately play the games. Technology upgrades fast, but sure it upgrades fast, but you don't always need top of the end hardware to run a lot of games. For example, I'm using this is like a $300 card, but it's a GTX 660 Ti in my computer, and that with my quad core i7 3.5 gigahertz processor and my 16 gigabytes of RAM, I'm gonna be set for a while, and I don't think I'm gonna need to upgrade to another GPU anytime soon. Maybe in 2014 or 2015, I'll get the GTX Titan once it's not $1,000. Now, if you're a console person and you listen to this commentary all the way through and you heard how I just named $1,000 card, you do not need a $3,000. You do not need $1,000 card to run a game. If you really want to test that card and use it on multiple screens at once, then sure you can try it. But I'm just saying you don't need to spend all that money on stuff. You put what you want into the machine. I say that because if you want a great machine if you want a good machine that can run 1080p constantly, um, over 100 frames, you can record with it and all that stuff, then you're obviously going to be spending more money than if you just want a gaming computer that can get by. If you just want a gaming computer that can get by, you can get a computer for anywhere between 500 to $600, which is probably going to be the strength of the next gen console. But if you over time when you get more money, you can just go into that, unplug some stuff, uninstall the software, take out that graphics card, sell it to a friend that probably wants it, and then go and buy another graphics card. And it's like having a new machine. Putting in a new graphics card really makes a difference. Nowadays, if you start with a good processor, because I don't know when we're gonna get like new processors, but until then, I'll be fine with my, like I said, i7 quad core 3.5 gigahertz processor. I mean that thing just goes through everything like so well. I don't. The most CPU I've ever used is probably like 45%, and that's saying something because when I'm video rendering, recording, and playing a game at the same time, and it's only at 34%. And I tested it in the task manager in the main like bar. So that's when you know it's real because it's hooked up to. Okay, but now that I'm done rambling, you don't need to spend all that much money on upgrading your machine. You put in Okay, you put what you want into the machine. That's really it. If you want a good machine, you pay a lot. If you want a machine that can just make it by, then you pay maybe 400 to 500. Now, if you want to upgrade just one part, it can be very cheap. If you know what you have to upgrade. If you buy unnecessary stuff that you have to upgrade, well, if you buy unnecessary stuff that you do not have to upgrade, then it's really just a waste of money. And if you're a PC gamer, you know how everything works and what you need to upgrade to make it work. And a lot of games nowadays have troubleshooters that tell you what you ultimately have to fix. And like I said earlier, you don't need to make that. If you already have a gaming computer, then all you really need to do is just toy around or tinker the settings a little bit and you'll be fine. Now, if you really want some cheap places to upgrade machines, I'm going to recommend Micro Center #1, Newegg is #2, and Amazon is #3. Those three places you can get a lot of stuff. And if you just go to Micro Center, you can pick up stuff for free sometimes, which is always good. But yeah, that's my 25-minute video about PC gaming and just my PC gaming review and versus console. And yeah, if you made it all the way through this video, then leave a comment and like and subscribe. And yeah, thanks again for listening to this whole video. I'm gonna go get something to eat because I'm hungry. Thanks for watching. Like, sub, bye.